The story begins with three prominent figures setting fire to the home of a truck driver's family boss. The only survivor is the boss's son, Bhavani. If they were to kill Bhavani, the three would become the prime suspects, as they were the main rivals of Bhavani's father. To avoid suspicion, they decide to let Bhavani live, making him a witness, and forcing him to falsely testify that the fire was an accident. After this incident, Bhavani is sent to the Juvenile Surveillance Department, where the officials are paid to make his life miserable. Bhavani is only fed once a day, is beaten during sleeping hours, and lives under constant torment designed to break his spirit and prevent him from causing trouble. Over time, Bhavani adapts to the suffering. The pain no longer bothers him. He becomes indifferent to it. In fact, enduring pain so often, Bhavani begins regularly punching the prison walls, building incredible strength in his fists. One day, Bhavani is reported to have escaped. In reality, he seeks out one of the three men, not for revenge, but to propose a deal. At that moment, Bhavani offers to pay them a steady sum of money in exchange for his freedom. Using the experience and knowledge gained from his late father, Bhavani organizes the truck drivers, persuading them to pay a fee for each trip they make. In return, they no longer have to worry about permits or police inspections, as Bhavani eliminates any guards in his way and collects the essential documents needed. Gradually, Bhavani gains control over the city's truck drivers. His earnings soar, and his payments to the three bosses remain steady. He even recruits orphans as his loyal crew. Slowly but surely, Bhavani builds his own empire and becomes the most feared figure in the region. 17 years pass, and the three bosses grow anxious about Bhavani's power in the area. They regret not having killed him along with his family all those years ago. But now it's too late, as Bhavani is widely respected and feared. Not only that, rumor has it that he's considering running for president of the local Drivers Association. In the present, Bhavani is a tall, imposing man with a calm demeanor. After years of waiting for the right moment, Bhavani arrives to avenge his family's death. Though the three bosses laugh, convinced that they still control the territory, Bhavani gathers all the employees and offers a bag of money to anyone willing to join him. Seeing this, RHE bosses mock his confidence, thinking no one would betray them. But as Bhavani raises the offer, one by one, the workers begin to consider the deal. Eventually, they agree to join Bhavani, even handing him a machete to finish off the three bosses. Unexpectedly, Bhavani declines the weapon. Instead, he chooses to rely on his fists, honed over years of relentless training, and takes down each of the three bosses with nothing but his bare hands. Meanwhile, at the local government office, officials frequently receive reports about the chaos at the juvenile facility. Numerous teachers have been sent there, but none have lasted more than a month. Once again, they are tasked with finding a suitable master to guide and mentor these troubled teens. The next day, Bhavani attends the funeral for the bosses, whom he had secretly murdered. Among the attendees is a government official who was a close colleague of the bosses. At that moment, Bhavani plans to act friendly, hoping to secure support in the upcoming Drivers Association presidential election. However, the official has already heard rumors about the boss's deaths being linked to Bhavani. Unwilling to support him, the official prepares to leave, only to be fatally struck by a truck that Bhavani had orchestrated. Witnessing Bhavani's influence, other colleagues eventually agree to back him in the election. Switching back to the juvenile facility where Bhavani once stayed, the teenagers are no longer just mischievous. They're now fierce and impossible to control. Hearing that a new teacher is arriving, the teens eagerly gather at the door to greet them. Soon after, John, a teacher appointed to educate and mentor these youth, enter the class. Unlike conventional teachers, John shows no hint of authority. Even in the classroom, he instructs the students to leave and skip formal lessons entirely. As John lounges in the classroom, two brothers, Shiva and Raju, approach. They want to share vital information about the facility, but finding John fast asleep, they slip a note into his pocket instead. Upon waking and preparing to leave, John finds his car tire flat. As a result, he borrows a bicycle from a staff member, where a local police officer on guard advises him to be cautious, as the teens here are unlike those at other orphanages. It turned out, Half of them are addicted to drugs, not by choice but through coercion by a shadowy figure or group. The officer expresses hope that John's presence might bring some change for these troubled youth. That night, Shiva and Raju are summoned by Bhavani, who turns out to be the person behind the drugs that are destroying these children. Apparently, Bhavani has learned about Shiva and Raju's attempt to escape and report the truth about the orphanage. Without a shred of mercy, Bhavani ruthlessly beats them both to death. The next morning, Shiva and Raju are found lifeless in the classroom. John is struck with shock and disbelief at the sight. As the teacher responsible for them, John is taken to the police station, held accountable for what happened to the two brothers. As night falls, Bhavani accepts an invitation from Rajesh, the last remaining candidate in the upcoming election. Rajesh is surprised to see Bhavani arrive alone, without his men. Like Bhavani, Rajesh has used ruthless and deceitful tactics to achieve his goals, and has invited Bhavani with the intention of killing him, just as Bhavani did with previous candidates. During this time, Rajesh assumed he and his 3 men would be enough to kill Bhavani. But he was gravely mistaken. Bhavani remained calm, even pleased to eliminate his final rival in his own home. With ease, Bhavani takes down each of Rajesh's men one by one, leaving only Rajesh, who is now defenseless. Meanwhile, back at the police station, John witnesses a heart-wrenching scene as the mother of Shiva and Raju cries, pleading for justice. But in this town, the lazy police, uninterested in cases that don't bring them money, decide to silence her by throwing John in a cell, making him the scapegoat to appease her. While in his cell, John discovers a note in his pocket, which reveals the horrifying truth about the orphanage. Shiva and Raju explain that they were brothers from a poor family. Raju once stole a piece of bread for his starving brother Shiva. It was a minor incident, yet they were forced into the juvenile center on exaggerated charges. At the orphanage, Shiva, Raju, and all the other children were forced to take drugs until they became addicted. Bhavani orchestrated this to keep them trapped there, needing scapegoats for his crimes. Reading the note, John is moved to tears, devastated by the injustice done to them all. Shortly afterward, a group of thugs sent by Bhavani arrives to confront John. The police captain, who regularly accepts bribes from Bhavani, immediately understands their intent and clears out with his officers, leaving John to face the thugs alone. At that moment, the thugs demand that John leave town, threatening violence if he refuses. But when threatened, John fights back, taking down the thugs effortlessly, instilling fear as they see their companions fall one after another. John swiftly incapacitates them all. Hearing the commotion from outside, the police initially think John is being beaten and worry the thugs may have lost control, unaware it's the thugs who are getting defeated. Fueled by adrenaline, John even uses his signature iron bracelet to knock out the last of them. Using one of the thugs' phones, John finally connects with Bhavani, leading to their first direct confrontation. In this exchange, Bhavani learns the truth about John's past, that he was once a troubled youth, frequently in and out of jail, until he chose to turn his life around, pursuing higher education and eventually becoming a professor at a university. At that moment, John makes it clear he doesn't care who Bhavani is, as his sole mission is to reform the children and lead them toward a better future. The following day, after being released, John returns to the juvenile center with a new look and purpose. The teens initially taunt him, but John remains unfazed. Instead, he decides to teach them a lesson by confronting the 3 corrupt staff members, whom he discovers are also involved in Bhavani's crimes. After dealing with the staff, the teens start to fear and respect John, becoming more receptive to discipline and even discarding items that don't belong in the center. With the help of college student volunteers, John transforms the rundown, dirty orphanage into a clean, inviting place. He even goes a step further, trimming the hair and mustaches of all the teens to give them a fresh look. However, one of Bhavani's loyal followers, Das, was upset at being forced to shave his beard. Das quickly reports this to Bhavani, who orders him to create disruptions to sabotage John's efforts. Unable to ignore this interference, John sets off for Bhavani's residence on the outskirts of town, armed with some information from an orphanage staff member. At that moment, he seizes someone fresh out of the shower to force Bhavani to reveal himself. Inside, John finds Bhavani's men gathered. When John demands to know which one is Bhavani, the person he's holding raises a hand, revealing that he is, in fact, Bhavani. Surprised but undeterred, John tightly grips Bhavani's head, humiliating him in front of his men. Outraged, Bhavani watches in frustration as one of his men fails to attack John. With John in control of the situation, Bhavani has no choice but to let him have his way. The next day, Bhavani calls John with a warning that he does not understand who he is dealing with. Bhavani claims to have an army of truck drivers and threatens to harm all the student volunteers working at the orphanage. Because of this threat, a few of John's students lose their lives. Not stopping there, Bhavani plans to move his operations elsewhere and instructs Das to load the orphans into a container truck. Hearing that the children are being taken, John, who is on his way home, quickly returns to the orphanage. Upon arrival, he questions a few of Das's men, compelling them to reveal the children's location. Using his public speaking skills rather than violence, John makes them see who Bhavani truly is, the person they've been idolizing all this time. His clear and logical explanations convince them, and they finally disclose Bhavani's plan. Wasting no time, John sets off in pursuit of a convoy of trucks loaded with cash, drugs, and the orphan children. Accompanied by a student who is an archery athlete, John successfully stops the trucks, sending them spinning out of control. As the trucks come to a stop, Das confronts John, angered by his constant interference. John once again uses his words to make Das realize the truth, that among all the kids in the orphanage, Das would be the first to be sacrificed if the police ever investigated Bhavani's crimes. Bhavani only cares about himself, and Das is merely a pawn to be discarded when convenient. Shortly after this conversation, Das arrives at Bhavani's new hideout, a meat storage facility. Just as John predicted, Bhavani orders his men to take Das to a secluded area, intending to kill him for knowing too much. Meanwhile, other henchmen inspect the container holding the children, only for John to emerge from inside. After defeating all the thugs, only Bhavani remains. In his arrogance, Bhavani gives John 2 minutes to kill him, assuming John will fail. But John isn't someone to be underestimated. Realizing this, Bhavani fights with all his might, launching powerful punches that send John reeling. Bhavani's blows are indeed strong, fitting his large, muscular build. However, John decides it's time to use his signature move, Iron Bracelet. No matter how powerful someone's punches may be, they're no match against steel. Because of this, Bhavani quickly loses his advantage, especially as John strikes the same spot consistently, weakening him further. When Bhavani is finally defeated, he tries to bribe John with promises of wealth, but John remains unmoved. After all the lives lost because of Bhavani, John doesn't hesitate to end it, hanging Bhavani on a meat hook. Sometime after the incident, Das and several teens involved in the crimes are sentenced to adult prison, where they are greeted by hardened inmates. Little do they realize that one familiar face awaits them was John, who has long known his way around the prison walls. Moral lesson from the story: if you think letting your enemy live makes you the smart one, just wait, he might come back with fists of steel. And remember, kindness isn't just overrated, it's dangerous.